Welcome to Attention Talk Video, where we pay attention to attention. Now, here's your host, Jeff Copper.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and attention coach, Jeff Copper. I'm here today because I want to deconstruct procrastination. A lot of people are really interested in content that's entertaining or quick fixes, but sometimes to really understand something, you have to delve into it. So I want to talk about objective observation. So I've done a couple of videos on my channel talking about boredom. Boredom for people with ADHD is physically uncomfortable. And think of it like this. When you're in pain, it takes an enormous amount of cognitive effort to sit in pain. Imagine you got to scratch an itch and you sit there and just not scratch it for a really long time. It takes a lot of emotional, just to sit there and just endure the pain. And notice when you're doing that, you're actually not paying attention to anything else. So things that are tedious, repetitive, and boring for people with ADHD are something that they escape from because it's physically uncomfortable. Now, we don't like to think of it like that because it's convenient to just say, well, you're lazy or you're unmotivated. Well, actually, you're motivated to escape it. That's why you are. So all too often, I got people that are procrastinating on something and not looking at the facts. They're just looking at it. They're judging it based off of their feelings. So literally, I just got off the call with somebody today who was talking about in the morning, they are not eating and they wait till later in the day and they're kind of bonking. And then when they eat, they got to rush and it's a mess. And I said, well, what's hard about eating? And they said, well, nothing. And I said, well, are you hungry in the morning? And they go, well, yeah. I go, so why aren't you eating? Well, because I think I should be productive before I actually eat. So I'm like, okay, first of all, we got a problem here. You have a belief that you've got to be productive before you eat, yet you're bonking later in the day, which is, that's in direct conflict. But as I began to ask more and more questions, as I normally do, I was like, what would you eat in the morning? And it turns out he would cook breakfast. Now, let's think about this for a second. To get a pan out and to, let's say you're going to cook like eggs or something simple. That sounds simple. You got to get the pan out. You got to spray it made with Pam. You got to break the eggs. You got to discard the eggs without the juice getting all over the place. You've got to fry them. You take them. You put it on a plate. When you get done, you got to take the pan over. You got to stick it in the sink. You got to clean it. You got to do the plate. You got to put all that stuff away. Okay. That's a lot of steps. That's tedious and boring. And when your mind is really somewhere else and wanting to go do something exciting, it's difficult. So what happens is emotionally you don't do it. So the guy was judging this activity as simple. And I'm going, well, it's not simple because you're not doing it because it's repetitive, tedious, and boring. And so a lot of times people are putting things off for a cognitive reason. The idea here really is that there's too many steps with regard to. So by the way, when I'm coaching procrastination, number one, is your life impaired if you didn't do it? Like making my bed, like my life isn't impaired, so I just don't make my bed. That's step one. Step two is delegate it or automate it so you don't have to do it. Step three is to reduce the number of steps. And step four is to combine it with another activity that is of interest. So in this situation, I'm saying, well, how do you reduce the number of steps? Maybe you buy hard-boiled eggs. Maybe you cook hard-boiled eggs in advance. So all you have to, and you, by the way, you peel them. So you do it one time and you eat it. Here's the point. A lot of times people are looking at the situation and they're judging themselves as unmotivated, they're lazy, but they've got ADHD. They're not really addressing that it would be easier if you reduce the number of steps. And the reason that you're not eating isn't because of anything. It's just too much work. Solving the problem, reduce the work is really the way that you kind of move past it. So again, I probably get a couple people making some more negative comments like, come on, you should just be able to do it. Suck it up, buttercup. But anyway, I've been coaching this for 16 years. It's the same with everybody kind of across the board. So anyway, where I'm going, this is more too often what you're putting off. There's a legitimate reason underneath. It's just not a moral issue. It's related to your executive function. The best thing for you to do is own your ADHD and then problem solve around that. So hopefully this is giving you a pause to think. If you can, please leave some comments and I'm struggling more and more these days because people are gravitating to content that's entertaining, which I understand that, but at the end of the day, most of the content's not helpful. And more you're starting to hear that most of the content out on TikTok is misinformation. So again, the more you comment, just even thanks or something like that, kind of moves us up in the algorithm to see if we can kind of reach some people. So with that, hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.